take a look at the exterior. And the reason I went for this particular car, one, I mean, Evo 6s don't come up for sale too frequently. But the exterior of this one's really, really clean. There's not a ton of things to do here. It's original paint, so there's no sort of disasters being covered up, hopefully. The paint is in pretty good condition. Paint is known to be a pretty weak point of Evos in general, so if you have the original paint and it's holding up, it's usually a good sign. But yeah, let's go ahead and go over it. So, starting at the front, overall pretty clean. There's a couple sort of dents and dings, and somebody took a curb a little too close there at the front, scratched that up, or just bottomed out pretty hard on something. The paint's coming off pretty good on the vent. And the worst part, this is the most unsightly part of the entire car right now, is the drip molding. You've got the rubber cracking and peeling off, and this aluminum showing through in places. So thankfully, for those who don't know, this car shares a lot in common with the Mitsubishi Mirage. So you can actually just order the drip molding for the Mirage and it'll just pop right onto this car, no issue. So I've actually already done that. I'm doing both the left side and the right side because it's not a very expensive part, and I'll just clean it up. It'll look a lot nicer having that clean drip molding on there. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. But let's keep going here. So the front bumper needs either some serious touch-ups or even just a repaint at this point. Not too big of a deal, not too concerned about it. And we've got the vent, of course. Let's keep going around. And more just sort of bumper imperfections, nothing too crazy. I don't know, maybe someone who's talented with touch-up paint can make that look serviceable for now, and then worry about repainting it later, but sort of cross that bridge when we get there. And a couple spots on the mirrors. Paint sort of worn through and chipped off on the handle. A couple of other random spots like on the side skirt here. I love the look of these rims and wheels on this thing. The guy I bought it off had actually already done this, and well, excellent choice on his part. Wing, everything, no concerns here. Again, we can see that drip molding that needs to be replaced. Otherwise, no major call-outs on the exterior. A couple very minor things to do. Again, more sort of chips on the roof. I don't know if you can really see them here. There's a couple minor dents, but you kind of got to get the right angle to show them. So I'll probably just bring those and have them popped. It is aluminum, so hopefully it takes its original shape, but that's why I'm going to get someone else to do it and not myself. Alright, so that's the exterior. Let's go ahead and pop the hood and see what's going on inside here. No surprise really, but a cheap Japanese economy car from the 90s uses a prop rod instead of hydraulics, so get that in place so I don't crush my head with the hood. Engine bay, pretty clean. The engine has been freshly rebuilt. There's about 1,000 kilometers on it. Nothing too crazy as far as the build goes. It got upgraded rods and pistons, ARP head studs. When that was done, it got new timing belts, new water pump. That's about it. I mean, if you know the 4G63 at all, you know it's a pretty stout engine. For the power levels that this thing's pushing, it should be, I don't know if it really needed the upgraded rods and pistons, but it doesn't hurt for longevity, I guess. Underneath this heat shield is a GTX 3071 Turbo. There's one other spot. This is the other worst part, and it's really not that bad at all. This is common on these old Evos from what I've read, due to gasoline dripping and there being no real protection here. We got a little bit of bubbling underneath the gas cap, and it's not too bad. It's still pretty early, and this metal's kind of raised to begin with. You can see it's a little bit of rust. So what I'm going to do is get a grinder and grind that down too, and cover that up before it gets any worse. But yeah, not too bad. Interior, bit of wear on the driver's seat. It's not in the best shape. It's not terrible, but you know, there's room for improvement there. Gotta get that reupholstered. Got the original carpets. They're looking pretty worn. And there's just some random spots where the interior plastic, cheap plastic trim took a beating. Got a couple scratches on it. Nothing terrible, but let me give an example right here. A couple scratches on the interior there. And if we look at the radio, this is just a bizarre thing that's going on. I don't know if this is normal or not, but I'm assuming this JVC deck is aftermarket. And at one point there was either a blanking plate or a doubled in. And now we've just got this empty hole right here where you can look inside and see wiring harnesses and such. So either get a blanking plate or cover that up, or maybe I'll put in a slightly more modern head unit, something that's got CarPlay, Android Auto, that kind of stuff. I don't know. I'm still undecided on that. I may want something a little bit more period correct for the car. Obviously that stuff wasn't around then, so maybe an older doubled in that just fills this in, or a blanking plate. I don't know. We'll figure that out when we get there. Otherwise, interior's in pretty good shape. And the trunk. Trunk's nice and clean. We got a big kicker subwoofer in there. The radio gets almost no reception, so we have a big subwoofer connected to just static noise, or the worst stations ever as you're driving around. So I need to get some CDs or something. I don't know. People still have CDs. I don't, but maybe I'll buy a couple or make a couple. And then on the bottom of the trunk, this is the weirdest thing. Right here. And right here. As far as I'm concerned, there's two possible scenarios that happened here. One is they tried to put something in here that was too big for the trunk to close on, and then closed it anyways. And you can see it made contact and scratched it up a little bit. The second one, I think this one's probably more likely, is they knocked someone unconscious and then dragged their body into the trunk and tried to transport them somewhere. But midway through they woke up and tried to claw themselves out of the trunk. I'm not sure which one, so I'm just going to go ahead and assume it was the second, because you can see those claw marks in there. Alright, so that's pretty much it for showing off the car. Next I'm going to go in and get it warmed up and take it out for a drive. Idle right now is at about 1200 RPM. The car's on about 23 pounds of boost and makes 350 to the wheels on the dyno that it was on. Those are all the numbers that I was quoted from the person that I bought the car from. I haven't actually validated any of this myself yet. I'm going to take it easy on the car today. I didn't buy this to drive it like a Corolla, but it did take some significant convincing to convince my wife that buying a car and then basically just storing it in my brother's garage for 2 years and not really driving it. I mean, driving it a little bit when I come to visit it, but otherwise my family doesn't really drive manual, especially right-hand drive manual. So none of them are super comfortable even rolling it down the street. So it's basically going to be in storage when I'm not here. And then when I'm here, I'm going to be driving it. But that was kind of a tough sell. So anyways, eventually I convinced her, which is why we're here. But if I break the car on the trip where I bought it, I think she would literally kill me. So remember those scratch marks in the trunk? If she didn't do a good enough job, I would add to that after she comes in, murders me, and then puts me in the trunk. All right, let's go. First of all, driving right-hand drive. If you've never driven right-hand drive before, I was a little bit scared about this. I've never driven a right-hand drive car before. I've driven manual for a long time. I actually have an Evo 10. It's a 5-speed. I've owned Honda Civics. I've owned a Nissan Sentra SER Spec V. A bunch of other manual cars. So manuals, nothing's new to me. My wife owned a City Jetta a while back as well. We've had manual cars in and out, so she can drive stick as well. But right-hand drive, I was kind of, I don't know, shifting with the left-hand side, sitting on the wrong side of the car. A little bit apprehensive about that, which I think most people are. And honestly, after driving for 5 minutes, it's no big deal. The weirdest thing, outside of shifting with your left hand, which isn't that bad, is the turn signal stock. The turn signal stocks are actually reversed. So the windshield wiper controls are on the left side of the steering wheel, and the turn signal stocks are on the right side of the steering wheel. So I was attempting to, make a right-hand turn signal, and I was actually just turning on the windshield wiper. The first couple of turns that I made, after you figure that out, you get used to using, one, shifting with your left hand, and then two, actually figuring out the correct side of the turning signal stock. It's pretty easy at that point. This car is also fairly easy to drive. It's got a Exedi twin clutch on it. It does engage right at the top, which I don't love. I usually like the clutches to engage more towards the middle. Just find it easier. I don't know, just what I'm used to. This car, you can actually get it moving just by modulating the clutch. So you can find the sort of biting point and then work the clutch a little bit, and you can get the car moving without actually applying any gas. That's not the greatest thing to do for the clutch. But I think that's a sign of a car that's manual, that's easy to drive. If you can get it moving without having to apply any gas whatsoever, it's pretty simple. My 10 has cams and an Exedi twin as well. I really like these clutches, but it engages midway through, and it's got a very small area of forgiveness. And if you don't actually give it gas at the biting point, the car will just stall. This one does not do that, so that's nice. It's kind of easier if you were to daily drive, or maybe not daily drive, but drive it more often than I'm planning to. I think this wouldn't be a bad choice. But that being said, let's go for a spin. Okay, I'm going to actually turn on the turn signals on the right side. That was the clutch all the way to the top, throwing me off. Car sounds pretty good. It does have an open dump at the bottom, so when you go wide open throttle or close to, you really start pushing the boost. It gets loud, and when you let off it, you can hear that flame shooting out the bottom, which is pretty cool. My Evo 10 uses a bypass valve, and it's not an open dump. It's a lot quieter. So it's a nice little change for that. This just sounds a lot more raw as a result. Okay, turn signal here, and we got a road where I'm gonna open it up a little bit. Second gear. Woo! That wasn't even a full pull. That was just a sort of second gear partial pull. See what it's got. And this car does not weigh a lot. 350 pounds or 350 horsepower with the wheels. Not a crazy figure. Most sort of sports cars that you can buy nowadays are well beyond that number. But this car is very light. So that 350 wheel horsepower feels like a lot more than that. And it just makes it fun to sort of throw this car around, just drive it around, and yeah. power to weight ratio on this is pretty great. But again, just driving around, I'm in 4th gear. Car's at about 3,000 RPM, doing about 80 kilometers an hour. I'm not speeding or anything. And the car handles really well. Like, it's not a rough ride. It's not super stiff. It doesn't feel like I'm driving an old 1990s Japanese Econobox. It just drives pretty nice. That being said, the interior is probably one of the worst interiors I've ever seen on a car. I drove a lot of really cheap cars when I was younger. I never had a lot of money growing up. So it doesn't bother me. I'm used to it. This was sort of par for the course in the cars that I had when I was younger. So that's all fine. But I do have an F80 M3, and the gulf in quality between the two of them interior is huge. Performance-wise, I mean, I have a dual clutch, so I'm always going to be faster in that car. But in the hands of a better driver, I don't know. This car might actually be faster. And it is Labor Day weekend. Everybody's getting home from the cottage, so there's a little bit of traffic on the roads. My parents do live in a small town. There's a lot of really great driving roads around here. You can go super fast on them, but there's a lot of bends. There's usually not a ton of traffic on them, so you can have some fun on them without getting too out of hand. Most people aren't going to give you much in the way of problems. You might get pulled over if you're going pretty quick, but alright, 3rd gear pull time. So get down this hill, and here we go. Whew. Alright, that was that was pretty quick. It's not like world ending or anything like that, but it's fun quick. More than fun quick. It's fast. It's a fast car. This car is tuned on 94. So if you're from Ontario, you already know this, but getting E85 around here is very tough. And even on most of the pumps, premium is 91 octane. Thankfully, Petrocan does have 94 available to pump, but it's only at certain gas stations. The closest one from here is about 10 minutes away, which isn't too bad. And then my brother lives in a little bit bigger of a town. It's actually a city, but there's one right around the corner from his house. So as far as storage goes, no concern there. And then when I'm coming up and staying with my parents' place, finding 94 octane. Again, you're a 10-minute drive away, which isn't too bad. In Washington State, E85 isn't that plentiful either. I drive about 20 minutes to get it at the pump, and then I fill up a couple jugs, and then I just store them, and they're there when I need them. It's not really doable here, I don't think. As far as power level goes, I'm not going to be looking for much more out of this car. 350 horsepower at the wheels, and the light car is plenty. And I'm really more interested in like longevity of this car, keeping it running, keeping it looking good, preserving another Evo 6 instead of ruining it by getting too aggressive with the mods or racing it and smashing it. So this is a car that I hope to keep running for many, many years now. Still adjusting to where that clutch engages. Not too bad, but you've heard some not the smoothest shifting. I'm going to blame it on that and not my manual skills. I'm not the best manual driver in the world, but I've been doing it for long enough that I think I'm decent enough. But yeah, just that engagement right at the top of the throw is not my favorite thing in the world, but I'll get used to it. Okay, and we're back. So So that's it. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please subscribe. I'll be adding more of these as I go. Again, the Evo 6, the videos will be a little bit sparse because I live in a different country than this car. So it'll only be when I come back and visit. But when I do, I'll try and have a couple things lined up so that there's some good things to do while I'm here. I think this car is in Rhymes Blue. I really love the color of this car. It's perfect. So I'm not going to change that at all. It'll just be more or less cleaning up the paint and making sure that it looks nice. And then in like 10-15 minutes, I'm going to go to the store and I'm going to buy a Dremel. I have one at home. They don't have any tools here, unfortunately. And my parents don't have much. They have a couple screwdrivers and a vacuum cleaner, and that's it. And I'm going to grind down that little rust spot inside of by the gas cap there. That's all I can think of right now. If there's anything else, I'll bring it up. Other cars. So as the Evo 6 videos will be fairly sparse, if you want to check out anyways, when I get back to Washington State, I'll do a video on my Evo 10, and I'll do a video on my F80 M3. My Evo 10 is very modified, to the point where I wish that it wasn't so modified, because it's been a lot to deal with, to be honest. It's got a built engine, it's got a full race turbo kit, it's got a bunch of suspension mods and other things done as well. It's flex tuned. It makes about 550 wheel horsepower on E75. My injectors are a little bit small. I'll get to all this in the Evo 10 video. So that's an overview of the Evo 10 for now. In my F80 M3, very minor mods. I'm looking to keep that one pretty close to stock because that thing's already a beast from the factory. You don't need to heavily modify it to make a lot of power. In fact, I'm already pretty happy with the power that it makes, just sort of when I got it. I did a couple minor things and there's a tune on it, but I'll make a video on that goes over what's done to that one too. Yeah, and that's it. So thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you next time. See you guys. What's up, guys? I'm bringing the Evo to storage right now, and I realize that once that's done, I won't be able to do any pulls for a little while, so I want to do a couple of these before it's in there, you know? Last one for the bit for now.